All right, so we're back at it again for day 7. We are 1 week in, and today is quite an easy or lighter workout. It consists of power snatches, 5 sets of 3, clean and jerk, 5 sets of 2, and then push presses with 5 sets of 3. So I figured I'd tag a few little things on to the end of the workout, just so I'm getting a little bit more out of it. As usual, I started off today's workout with some skipping and some mobility. Warm-ups don't have to be super duper long, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, but the main purpose of a workout is just to get you warmed up, raise your core body temperature, and to mobilize all the joints. And then if you're following a warm-up known as the RAMP protocol, RAMP, it just stands for raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. But the thing you really need to focus on is raise and mobilize. The activation and the potentiation will just come from whatever you're doing in the workout. So especially if you're doing Olympic weightlifting, any kind of snatch or clean and jerk variant is going to be explosive, and that's going to activate and potentiate the muscles. So main focus with any type of workout is just to raise your core body temperature, and then mobilize the joints that you're going to work. So it's really that simple. I'm a really big proponent for, if you're going to warm up to do something, so if you're going to snatch, then warm up by snatching. If you're going to warm up to clean and jerk, then warm up by clean and jerking. You don't need to spend half an hour warming up doing all kinds of foam rolling or messing around with a bunch of different mobility things that aren't necessarily relevant to what you're going to do. It just means you don't have to waste a bunch of time in the warm-up, and you can just get straight into it. And the more time you can actually be spending working out and getting relevant movements in, that's the most important thing. Apologies for the camera quality in the first sort of third of the video. There was some chalk on the camera, so it was a little bit blurry. You'll see when I get into the top set of the snatches that it becomes a lot clearer. But these snatches, these power snatches, warming up, they felt really, really nice, and they felt like really explosive and snappy. But as soon as I got to around about, pretty much the working set weight, they started to feel like they were moving a little bit slower. Because they're triples, the first sort of 1 or 2 reps are usually feeling quite explosive. But the third rep, because you're sort of a little bit fatigued, you don't quite have the same level of explosiveness in that rep, but it really does task you to get still a really, really good quality form rep, making sure that you're getting a nice explosive lockout, the arms go nice and stiff, and you're getting, you're still finishing relatively high with that catch position, and you're nice and stiff with your legs when you catch as well. Then I wanted to spend a little bit more time warming up for my clean and jerks. So this was a full clean and jerk, and the top set was, I think it asked for 97.5 kilos on the top set, but I ended up doing 100 kilos because, it's basically 100, it's only an extra 2.5 kilos. I felt strong enough. My shoulder was feeling good today, so that's what I did. One kind of dilemma I've been having a lot recently is I know that I should be jumping my feet out more when I do a clean. I should be jumping out to the width that I do when I'm strongest, when I do my front squat. But for some reason, it's just a force of habit. I, especially on heavier weights, I generally tend to not jump out as much as I should be able to. And you'll see, if you watch some of these reps and the ones that previously in the video, you'll see some reps I'm jumping my feet out quite a bit, and some of them I'm not really jumping them out at all. And there is a rep later here when I get onto the top set, I actually get pinned in the bottom of the clean. So I just pause it out there. Luckily, it was only 100 kilos, and I can stand up 100 kilos quite easily. But I think that's also a symptom of not jumping my feet out enough. So that's something I'm going to focus on going forwards, trying to focus on jumping the feet out a little bit more, so my feet are at least shoulder width apart, not just outside hip width, because that's the strongest position for me when I'm doing my my cleans. So that one there. And jerk wise, it was pretty average today. I must say my shoulder wasn't feeling as bad as it has done in the past couple of weeks, but there was an occasional rep here and there where I'm not sure if I want to continue doing this, but then the next one afterwards, for some reason it changed. I think the biggest factor for me is actually trying to push my head through that gap right after the bar has passed my head, and just getting straight into that position there. That usually does it for me. Yeah, that's the one I got pinned there. And the jerk wasn't too great on that one as well. But I didn't actually miss any jerks today, which is pretty good. So this is the heaviest double I've ever done with a clean and jerk, 100 kilos for 2. So I'm really pleased with that. Super duper explosive in the clean, and I'm standing them up quite nicely. And then finally, I moved on to push press, warmed up with 10 strict press, and then an attempt at a squat jerk. Not so good. Or a clean grip overhead squat. Then I moved on to, which was 80 kilos on the top set, I believe. I kind of was contemplating going up to 85 or 82 and a half, but I kept on losing balance on these reps. And I want to start doing more upper body involvement in the push press. Generally, in a push press, you can make it either more legs, because there's the involvement of the legs and the upper body, you can make it kind of more of both. And you see that rep there. That was when I was trying to use more upper body. So I kind of want to get to the point where I can sort of almost strict press 80 kilos, because that is still less than my body weight. To be able to strict press your body weight would be, it's a good level of strength to aim for. And I'm quite a way off of that right now. So I would quite like to get to that point. So I'm not just relying on my legs, and that will also then positively impact and carry over into my jerk a lot more as well. And a kind of underrated benefit I've started to notice from lowering the bar into the front rack position from the overhead, like letting the bar drop down and then catching it in the front rack. That right there is a really good way to eccentrically load the muscles in your lower body and your legs. Your quads kind of act like shock absorbers. And I think that is one of the underrated reasons why training Olympic style weightlifting has a tendency to increase people's vertical jump and to increase people's power output. It's not only because they're getting the violent triple extension from that power position in the snatch and the clean, but also there's that triple flexion and catching the bar. Especially in a power position, when you catch that bar in a nice stiff position with your legs in that quarter squat, being able to be rigid and stiff in that position, it's also that same position that's very specific to a lot of sports and a lot of athletic movements. Like vertical jumps, you'll very rarely see people getting down into a full half squat or a deep squat in a game. In fact, you'll never see anyone jumping from a full deep squat. For the most part, people are going to be in sort of that quarter range of motion in the quarter squat. So knees sort of like well above 90 degrees of flexion. Same thing with the hips as well. And then I just finished up that workout, as you saw there, with some vertical jumps, and I finished up with some rear delt flies, and my shoulders feel good. And the last thing I did here were just some barbell curtsy lunges, nothing too heavy, just enough to get a nice pump in my hips to make sure that my glutes are feeling good, my lower back's feeling nice, and to get some multi-planar work in that I can load over time. So that's been the first week of Athletic Every Day. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you tomorrow.